All right, then. So now that you got your notebooks out, here's our question of the day. Okay? We've finished looking at, to some extent, the limbic system. We're not finished totally because we know that emotion is not contained in just one part of the brain. The brain's a network. Emotion goes everywhere. But for right now, let's put a placeholder on the limbic system. Now we're going to jump in, of course, to the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is rationality. If I were to engage you in a robust class discussion, which I know everyone here wants to do, like, I can see this came in itching. Man, I wish I could participate in class discussion. My question is, what's more important, emotion or reason? I think you're going to say, wait, well, obviously they're both important. And believe it or not, they both work together really well. They should anyway. This is a big philosophical debate. Are human beings basically beasts? Are we basically a set of instincts that only barely keep ourselves in control? Or are we educated, high society? Are we able to say to ourselves, no, I'm not going to stop at McDonald's on my way home. I'm going to wait and have a nutritious dinner. A dog has emotions, doesn't have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to eat. A toddler doesn't have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to get mad and hit. So what if in a human being, the reason and emotion are separated? And that's a little bit of what we're talking about with Phineas Gage. Was Phineas Gage crazy? Did anyone see, did we see the end of the video? Yes or no? Phineas Gage?
No. Oh my gosh.
Sweet! Fancy Moses, children! How have you not watched the video already? You must have a crafty teacher.
Yeah. Good.
He's still alive.
I'm okay. Come on, help me to my feet.
Oh.
Hey, wait up, man! Hey, don't leave without your foreman, hey! Oh! Oh! Oh.
We got a new foreman.
What? Who?
I'm the foreman now.
You? Benjamin. Oh. Oh, you can't take care of yourself, Benjamin, let alone a whole group of men, hey! Oh. Oh. I'm still in charge, hey?
We hope you'll be back, Phineas, but not today.
Hey, how can you take my job? Phineas Gage, I'm a better man than you, any day! The best foreman!
We'll come by later, Phineas.
I'm the best! I'm the best! No!
The idea, when we talk about Phineas Gage, he suffered one of the most amazing, one in a zillion brain injuries and still lived. He had his limbic system and his frontal lobe separated. So what he had, kind of like we had, he had emotion and he had reason, but they didn't work together. He could still think and plan, but when he got mad, he got all the way mad. When he got sad, he got all the way sad and started crying. He could not balance himself. And when we investigate Phineas Gage further, towards the end of his life, after his amazing accident, he lived 12 years. He basically had a metal rod about a quarter in diameter shot through his head, went in through a cheek right underneath his eye bone, and went out through the top of his head. It's in 1848, no antibiotics in 1848, no blood transfusions. It's amazing how a man lived. And when he lived, going back to the idea of mind and body, he was a totally different person. Which brings us back to the profound idea. Do we have a brain? Or are we a brain? If we are a brain, then why do some people can't wait till the weekend? Happy hour. Gonna have a couple beers with friends. You're changing your brain. What about you? Do you really want to change that badly? Because if you change your brain, you change you. If you have a concussion, you don't hurt your brain, you hurt you. When you fall in love with someone, you don't fall in love with them, you fall in love with their brain. So when you look at Phineas Gage, it is the perfect concept. His brain was changed, he's a different person. And if he's a different person and can't control his emotion, is he crazy? Now before you jump in, like, no, he's not crazy, he just had brain damage. I don't know if you have to define crazy. If you see someone today acting as Phineas Gage would, yelling 1 minute, crying the other, and turn around laughing, and then all of a sudden starting to feed squirrels, because right after his injury, for some reason or another, he just connected with animals. So the question we have is Phineas Gage crazy? Now people say no, he's not crazy, he had brain damage. Well, what is crazy? Is crazy chemical brain damage, structural brain damage, emotional brain damage? All right, so when we wrap up Phineas Gage, what's the takeaway? Mind, body. Are we our mind or are we our body? Is there a difference between brain and body? Your brain's injured, you, whoever you are, your mind is gone. Was Gage crazy? No. He was brain injured. So now that's an interesting question. So now you look at someone who has schizophrenia. Are they crazy or is their brain injured? It kind of redefines what is crazy. You know, limbic system is emotion. Frontal lobe is reason. They are both supposed to work together. I wonder if they work together in you. Here's my challenge. You know you have a chapter outline coming up. Can you make yourself do it before you absolutely have to? Do you have the self-discipline? Now, what if we said self-discipline is your frontal lobe? How many of you all know, no matter what you do, you can wait to the last minute to do your chapter work? How many of you all are like, well, maybe I can make myself do it a day? Or is anyone here like toying with the idea it might be possible? Is there anyone here who has actually started their work? Not too shabby. It's an interesting question. If we look at why can some people deny what they want? What does that mean? Is that personality? Does that mean they have more neural connections? Their frontal lobe is stronger than their limbic system? We get a lot of questions. And you know psychology got very little answers. With me on that? Let's skip a line. Write down. You know what we're going to do? Let's have a little game. I mean, we'll play a little game. Should you want scrap paper? Everyone scrap paper. You don't have to. You'd be like, you know what, Mr. Pro? I don't even like your games.
Last time we scrap paper, we like threw it away.
All right, fine. You know what? If you don't want to play my Reindeer game, turn it landscape view and give me 2 pens. 2 pens, pen in each hand. All right, so again, quickly, we're going to play a little game. We're going to kind of demonstrate the fact that your brain works together. Limbic system, frontal lobe, and left hemisphere and right hemisphere. We're transitioning to talk about the fact your brain's kind of divided into halves. And most of the time they work together really well. One is always kind of in charge. Usually the left hemisphere is in charge in humans. Well, let's try to challenge this. Let's see if we can get our brain to work opposite. I'm going to give you 2 different tasks. What I want you to do is you got your pen, and you're going to draw 2 shapes on your paper with your hands at the same time. 2 different shapes. All right, are we ready? Has everyone finished micro, Terry, and everything? All right, are we ready? Let's try this out. There you go. Draw quickly. We've got it done. Corey, I think you were done. Let me see what you got.
That's good.
It's not too shabby. Not too shabby. What you got? It's okay. Oh, no. There wasn't actually a triangle involved.
Oh!
All right, it's not too shabby. Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
You did pretty good.
All right, that's pretty good. The question was, if you train yourself, can you do it well? Yes. We call that plasticity. The more you do something, neurons fire together, wire together. We demonstrated it was very difficult for you to do 2 different tasks using 2 different hands at the same time. Piano players, that's how you get to say it from the country. Piano players, they can do that because it's practice. Concentrate on 2 things at the same time. Let's watch someone who can.
Joe's split brain allows researchers to explore the workings of the left and right hemispheres, which are now almost completely separated. His party trick is to draw 2 different objects simultaneously.
Amazing.
There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so
Thanks. Okay.
them simultaneously and as fast as you can.
Oh, gracious.
And you know what? She can't even curse well. She said, "Oh, gracious." This doesn't even make sense. You're going to say something. Oh, Frindle. Who knows Frindle? Made up word. That's what I'm talking about. Remember, no one remembers back in the day? Frindle, the pencil. Did anyone here read a book as a child? Yeah. All right, fair enough. Okay, very cool. All right, so what the heck were we talking about? There's a lot of common sense in here. We don't have to write down every word on the screen. We got two hemispheres, all right? Left controls right side, right controls left side. And what does that mean? That means most people are left brain dominant, which means they're right-handed. We got about 20 people in this class, which means we have 2 people who are left-handed. Where are you, you sinister, evil people? So what does this mean? When we have 2 hemispheres, usually one's going to be dominant. It's a pretty durable statistic that any given normal population, if it's large enough, we're going to what's called regress to the mean. 90% are going to be right-handed, which means left brain dominant. Only 10% are going to be right brain dominant, which of course means left-handed. Okay, because the hemispheres do different tasks, they're slightly different shape. The word is called asymmetry. Asymmetry in function and asymmetry in shape. One theory is the left brain evolved as the human species evolved. The right brain might not be that different from a chimpanzee. The left brain, however, is a miracle. Look, cheetahs run. All right, dolphins swim. What do human beings do? We communicate. We think and we communicate, and when we get to a later chapter, I'm going to show you that words and thoughts are the same thing. It's a weird concept. You can't think without words. You can try. Prove me wrong. I don't think you can. Because if you're like, just the very thought of prove me wrong, you have to use words. It's a weird concept. The human brain, the left side, has developed to be very specialized. We have structures on the left side of our brain that appear in no other animal species. They can't use words. And maybe we could look at do chimpanzees use words when they sign?
She can be very stubborn, very willful.
Finish. You are not finished. You are not. You are not finished. You didn't do the work I asked. Please pick those up. Coco, you are very good at that. Please pick them up.
Do parrots use words, or are they just repeating a sound? It's a big difference. When we go through here, dominance in hemispheres, tasks in the hemispheres, I want to give a cautionary tale. This is why if I ever see Dr. Phil, I'm going to punch him in his big bald head. All right? Not that I'm a violent person. All right? I just fancy myself as the angel of justice. All right? And here's what he's done. He has done such a disservice to psychology. Dr. Phil and a lot of talk radio hosts, you know what they do is they have someone come on their TV show or radio show. In an hour, they fix their problems. Dr. Phil has cured marital problems in less than an hour. Minus commercials, 43 minutes. He's a genius. He has reduced psychology to something that is like a slogan or a soundbite. And it makes us all think this is possible. And here's, I sound a little bitter, it's like, yeah. I just got out of a staff meeting. All right? And the staff meeting was about how can instructors and professors and teachers teach students? We have to define our terms. Who's a student? We have to define, some students learn differently. Okay, I'm with it so far. Students are different. Here, and then they said, well, why don't we do an exercise to show how different we are? I said, I'm in. I'm a psychologist. I'm a guy of science. They give us a half sheet of paper with cartoons on it. I think there was even a unicorn. And then someone, what the what? And then some other teacher, they're concentrating, talking out their mouth, and they're doing their thing. And then some questions, ridiculous questions. And then you add up your score, and you find out what personality type you are. Are you left-brained or right-brained? And I'm like, what? This has nothing to do with neuroscience. And the woman next to me is like, I'm left-brained. I'm looking at her like, now the judge says I'm not allowed to hit stupid people anymore, or I'm going back to jail. So I'm looking at her and say, oh my God, this is true. Because my husband, he's left-handed, that means he's right-handed, and he's very creative, you know. And I'm looking at, What do you do with that? Where's the problem with that? We've reduced psychology, we've reduced 7 billion people into 2 types, left brain and right brain. I need you to be very cautious, extremely skeptical to the idea that you can anticipate someone's personality based on a physical trait. Does that mean the pattern of freckles will determine whether you're really a nervous person or a courageous person? This is one step away from racism. Your height, your blood type is going to predict your emotional response? No, 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 no. We call that pseudopsychology, pseudoscience. It's bogus, it's fake. Another good example of this is the best-selling book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's a great title. And he's got a lot of anecdotal evidence. And couples are, oh my gosh, men are like this, women are like this. But the question is, he's reducing it. He's reducing it to something that's so simplistic. Having said all that, I got off my soapbox and we're not going to talk about real science. Let's, in this class, reduce stuff. Ready? Left language logic. It has nothing to do with personality. It's not like, oh, I'm a logical person. Oh, left-handed people are more creative because their right side's dominant. That's the creativity side. No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. What we're looking at is the two tasks of the brain specialize. And you know what? Most of the time they work together. And most people, they work together really well. They complement each other. But what if you cut the brain in half? Oh my gosh, that person will die. I don't think so. Look at Phineas Gage. The brain can sustain amazing injuries and you can still live. The part of the brain that connects them to is called the corpus callosum. It allows your left brain to talk to your right brain, and your right brain to talk to your left brain. And for the most part, this happens behind the scene. It happens seamlessly. But there might be a medical reason to cut these two parts of the brain in half. Cut the corpus callosum. Because if you have extreme epilepsy, and you have several grand mal seizures quite a bit, it means your right brain's all of a sudden started firing, and it talks to your left brain. Your left brain says, oh yeah, and it makes your right brain fire. And back and forth, you have this war, this chain reaction, this critical mass goes off, and it turns into a grand mal seizure. What if you had 50? What if you had hundreds a day? So you seize up, you fall, you can't go to work. You can't barely get out of bed. Your body has been taken over by these seizures. Well, the theory is, cut the brain in half. That way the right side can't talk to left side can't talk to right side, and you have no more seizures. People are like, oh my gosh, I would hate to imagine that poor person. Can you imagine having your brain cut in half? So let's watch some video on this.
Left hemisphere and right hemisphere now are working independent of each other, but you don't notice it.
Now, when a word or a picture falls to the left of a fixation point, that information goes to his disconnected right half brain. And as we can see here, Joe is unable to name it. Joe is able to draw the picture with his left hand, the left hand getting its major control from the right half brain. What'd you draw?
Okay.
What'd you see?
Wheel on one side. I don't know where I saw on the other.
So even though he can't name it, his left hand is able to draw out a picture of the stimulus of the picture or word that we presented to his right half brain. What did you see?
Saw a hammer.
So just close your eyes and draw with your left hand. Just let it go. That's nice. What's that?
Saw?
Yeah. What'd you see?
Hammer.
What'd you draw that for?
I don't know.
What's the takeaway in split brain research? The reality is if you have your corpus callosum cut, you're likely to be just fine unless someone specifically tells you to stare at one dot. Okay? Information is only getting to one side or the other. We study rare cases because it's the extreme outlier of what people can't do that gives us the insight into what most of us can do. That's the whole idea of the split brain research. It does show the specialization, but since even in split brain research, in most cases, people are getting both sides are getting both information, you don't even notice it. So we got that. Male brain versus female brain. Evolutionarily, well, the theory was females were designed to do two different tasks to make our species develop and grow. I mean, the real sloppy science is males were hunters and women were gatherers. That's just, maybe that's true, but that's that men and women were designed to do different things. And as a result, their brains grew differently evolutionarily. This was a pretty hotly contested idea, especially in the 1970s. If you imagine the 1960s were the decade of civil rights for African Americans, 1970s were the decade of civil rights for women. This is, in the 1970s, there was the idea, they took Skinner's idea of behavioralism and took it to the extreme. They said, boys and girls are born the same. Give or take external genitals, their brain structures were the same. They were the same. And the only reason girls grow this way is because we wrap them in pink blankets. And the only reason boys grow differently, we wrap them in blue blankets. In fact, we even started steering little boys and little girls into gender roles before they were born. Mommy paints the room blue, mommy paints. And we give one group of people trucks and the others dolls. And from then on out, the divergence of the genders, that is the cause of it. Nah. While there clearly is social implications, evolutionarily, I think that you've got to basically say males and females of nearly all species are different. Okay? And biologically, let's look at a brain scan. Male brains are different than female brains. Little boy brains are different than little girl brains. So the behavioralist idea that it's culture that causes gender roles, maybe, because as we said, the concept of plasticity. And if you make little boys play sports and you make little girls play tea parties, their brains will grow differently. Is that the reason males and females have different brains? Because they practice different activities? I double dog dare you to go to any elementary school and watch the kids at recess. And you're going to watch, generally it's the boys out in the recess field playing soccer. Generally it's the girls in the blacktop sitting smaller and smaller groups just talking. That's not true for everyone, because we don't want to say men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That's pseudoscience. But the brains did evolve to do different tasks differently. Okay, so we talked about evolutionarily, we talked about behavioral. Let's talk about biologically. In a brain scan or autopsy, male brains are bigger. Even accounting for the fact, look, the males have bigger skeletons. They're just bigger people on average. And so what does that mean? The skulls are going to be bigger. If the skulls are going to be bigger, we know there's going to be no blank space in a skull, no empty stuff. So the male brain's going to be bigger. Not just because they're bigger people, but proportionally. Which means female brains are smaller and more compactly wired. Is there a correlation between brain size and intelligence? What are you supposed to say? Define your terms. How do we mean intelligence? Einstein did have a pretty big brain. Is that a cause? Is that a correlated? Meh. I don't think we have enough data. Female brains are more interconnected than male brains. Imagine we're talking about these brain parts, for lack of a better word, modules. We have the emotional part, we have the language part, we have the social part, we have the visual part. There's evidence that female brains, those parts are better connected than male parts. Males have parts, but the connection between them. Talking to the fellas now, have you ever been surprised that all of a sudden a female starts crying? Anyone guilty of that? If you're a male, have you ever been surprised by what you perceive as just random crying? No. Wait till you get married, son. That's not right. All right. And so the theory is this. Males have an emotional part, but it's slightly different, slightly disconnected from their social parts. They're having a conversation, and all of a sudden there are tears, like, why are you crying? And like, oh, I got to use that part of my brain. Now I know why you're crying. The theory is, now whether it's more emotional or not, what do we got to do? We have to say define emotionality. The theory is that women, it's not that people start crying. It's not, I'm not talking women crying, I'm talking men crying. If a male's watching and another male starts crying, like, why are you crying? Women will see the changes coming a little bit before because their facial expression part of their brain is more closely connected to their emotional part of the brain. They're going to see the minute changes coming before. For a male, it's because those parts aren't as wired closely, it appears to them as a surprise. Oh, wait, now I get it, you're upset. All right, now I got to think it this way. I didn't realize you were upset. Maybe males' tone of voice receptor patterns aren't as closely connected to their emotional patterns, so they're not getting the subtle change in voices. All right. Are women's better memory? Well, it depends on how we define memory. If it's an emotional memory, maybe. We want to say men are like this, women are like that. That's really simplistic and dangerously sloppy. There are some brain differences between men and women. Does that account for behaviors, tastes, personalities, and reactions? Probably, but I don't think we can draw a neat chart and say men, women, here's the differences. Let's go here, come on, there we go. When we look at the better connections between brain parts and modules in women, is it a coincidence? I didn't say cause. I'm not even going as far as say correlation. Autism is primarily a male syndrome. Girls have autism, but boys have it 75% of the time. Is that because, I mean, autism, is it because autistic people have emotions? Surely they have emotions. Are their emotions connected to their social part, to their facial recognition part, to their verbal part? And the theory is women have much better connections. So some people go so far as to say autism is just an extreme form of a male brain. When you have functioning working parts, those parts just don't talk to each other very well. It's a theory. I like the theory. It works out. I don't know how we're going to get enough data to support that. Female brains are more plastic through the lifetime. They can change a little bit easier. They're more responsive to hormonal changes. I think that makes sense, given childbirth and nursing and things like that. The analogy I heard one neuroanatomist say is that male brains are like Jeeps. They're not really cool. They're not really fast. They don't really do a whole bunch of cool things. But you know what? They don't change that much. They're there when you need them. And if you look at a Jeep from the 1940s after World War II and look at a Jeep now, it's pretty much the same design. Hasn't changed. Female brains are like Ferraris. And if you look at a female brain can do some amazing things, just like a Ferrari. But if you look at how a female brain changes throughout their lifetime, look at an early Ferrari, look at a new Ferrari. The changes are pretty graphic. Changes are pretty dynamic. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. It's just a metaphor. When I was growing up, we had to share a sticker. Paul, stop hitting Paul.
Stop hitting Paul, Paul.